thing about Europe is?
What?
It's the little differences. I mean, they got the same shit over there that they got here, but it's just there. It's a little different.
Example.
All right, well, you can walk into a movie theater in Amsterdam and buy a beer. And I don't mean just like no paper cup. I'm talking about a glass of beer. And in Paris, you can buy beer in McDonald's. And you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
They don't call it a quarter pounder with cheese?
Oh man, they got the metric system. They wouldn't know what the fuck a quarter pounder is.
And what do they call it?
They call it Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
That's right.
What do they call a Big Mac?
Big Mac's a Big Mac, but they call it Le Big Mac.
Le Big Mac. What do they call a Whopper?
I don't know. I didn't go on a Burger King. You know what they put on French fries in Holland instead of ketchup?
What?
Mayonnaise. I seen them do it, man. They fucking drown them in that shit.
Yeah.
When should a company localize and when should a company globalize? Let's take the example of Unilever. As you all know, Unilever is one of the world's biggest consumer goods company. Founded in the 19th century, Unilever today has over 400 brands in 190 countries. However, its eagerness for brand independence and customization led the company at the turn of the century to have an extremely complex organizational structure with over 70 operating companies, with 70 chairmen, 70 boards, and 70 sale organizations. This led to a deficit in competitiveness on a local and a global scale. As a result, the group embarked in 2005 on the One Unilever project in order to improve its uncompetitive cost structure and address its lagging growth. This leads us to the question of how to both think global and act local. In order to understand this dilemma, a company must first start by looking at its value chain. Inbound logistics, operation, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and services form the primary activities of the company. One should not forget about purchasing, technology, human resources, and the organization, which form the support activities for the primary activities. Let's now talk to some companies here in Singapore in order to better understand when to localize and when to globalize activities. In order to learn more about the globalization-localization dilemma, we head to the offices of the Kudelski Group in Singapore to talk to Anita Pang, Head of Marketing for the APAC region.
In China, because of the language, so usually we localize everything that we want to do branding exercise or we want to do exhibitions, conferences and things like that. So we also have our local channels to reach out to all the people, even the social medias as well. So, you know, rest of the world will probably be using Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. In China, they have literally the same thing, but in Chinese. In Weibo, WeChat, these are the, or Sina.com. These are the few common ones that we usually tap on the platforms that we use for them. If it's a product, then it depends on how Niagara wants to position itself. If Niagara thinks that this product is only for a specific market, then we won't tap onto other markets. But if it's a general messages, then we will localize every messages plus the PR plus everything, you know, into the local context. In Kudelski, we actually see the need of being there. For instance, in 2009, we started the R&D in China. First is to tap into the market and to understand how the people think. And of course, with all this knowledge, we are able to help the group in a different way. You know, in the past, everything is in France.
Hi guys, I'm here at Hewlett Packard Enterprises and we're about to find out if they think globally and act locally. So come on.
The way we do it actually, we will try as much as possible to adapt to the global campaign that we have, right? And but having said that, it's not one size fits all. So it's really depend on the needs of the country. Or at the regional level, we will actually share with the country what the global have shared with us, and then from there, the country will actually review it on their own again with the local stakeholders to see how fit the content are. And from there, we will be able to say, okay, we are going to adopt this global campaign, or we are going to do some fine-tuning it at the regional level or at the country level. So, but as much as possible, of course, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We try to adopt as much as possible.
What we need to do is understand what's our strength as an organization. It's built on a long history, 173 years. So we need to find out how we can bring those strengths to a market in a way that's relevant and is authentic. We need to be authentic because that's where we're at our best. So in terms of the product, I think we need to keep it as much as possible to the original as we can, at least in terms of spirit. When it comes to marketing, engaging with audiences, I think it's very important that we work with partners and we find out how to craft a market penetration strategy that's localized. This means that we have teams engaging with the market who are from that market. We don't run these initiatives from London or from New York. We need to do this locally. A lot of, editorially, a lot of things are aggregated in London and decisions are made there. Now, is that bad? No, because I think that, again, we want to have a global perspective. So in our London office, we have journalists, senior journalists from Asia, from North America, from Africa, from all over the world, and they all have different perspectives, and they have that fierce intellectual debate on what angle to take when they look at a story. So that happens in London. So it globalizes the viewpoint of any particular story, and that's what they do in London. That works very, very well. In terms of operations, printing and distribution, of course, we would want to do that as locally as possible. All right.
In order to investigate further, we headed to Little India, where we discovered global brands such as Rado, with boutiques that didn't differ from those in Switzerland, even though we're in the middle of a very particular neighborhood. This shows that even customer-facing activities don't always have to be localized. So we decide to focus on the global-local dilemma. The first aspect of this is the need for responsiveness. Concerning the need for responsiveness, we ask managers to assess 4 dimensions. The first one is customer demands. The second is compliance with legal and regulations of the specific market you wish to operate in. The third is the relative importance of the market for the company. And finally, how intense local competition is. However, we know that the need for responsiveness also must be balanced with the advantages of integration. So in order to identify these advantages and the scale of these advantages, we ask managers to rate this with 4 other dimensions. The first one is potential economies of scale. The second one is loss of control over the organization. The third is volatility of the market you want to operate in. And fourth, the relative size of the investment. Each of these dimensions must then be rated according to the relevancy it has to the specific part of the value chain that you wish to either make more local or more global. For that, the manager must generate a grade between 0 and 5, 5 indicating extremely high relevancy. Each dimension will then be graded based on the company profile, the activity the manager wishes to engage in, and the country he wishes to operate in. These grades are then summed up to obtain both values for the need for responsiveness and for the advantages of integration. These values are then graphed in order for the manager to understand which potential approach will better suit his activity. It will orient him for an international, a multinational, a global, or a transnational organization of this activity. Let's take an example to better understand how this matrix works. Let's pretend I'm a manager at Unilever and I need to better understand what to do with my research and development for the Chinese market. I calculate the need for responsiveness, and as I see, the number is very high because customers in the Chinese market demand local products, the importance of the market for Unilever is high, and finally there's a lot of local pressure from competition. However, the advantages of integration are also high since we have big potential economies of scale, loss of control will be high, and the relative size of the investment is important. As a result, I see that I must adopt a transnational organization for my research and development geared towards China. Concretely, what does this mean? This means I have to have a strong focus on China with a regional type approach. However, because the advantages of integration are so high, I can't have a research and development center just for the Chinese market. From the linearization of the supply chain to the cooperation of the local R&D activities and the sharing of the best practices across its business units, Unilever achieved great improvement of its whole business model by looking at the globalization potential of each of its activities. All in all, decision takers should keep in mind the following motto when thinking about globalization. Globalize as much as possible, localize when needed.